Hello, I'm here with Shawnee as always, and we are joined this week by Northampton Saints, England captain and Grand Slam winner, Dylan Hartley. Dylan, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Shawnee, you won at the weekend?
We did.
Worcester away, was it, or home?
Worcester at home, yeah. Scored a good few tries. We actually didn't play overly well, to be honest. We were a little bit disappointed and deflated afterwards with certain aspects of the game, but it's a good sign that we're like that at the minute. We're building.
It's a good sign
nicely.
you can beat Worcester.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign we're disappointed with beating Worcester by 35 points.
They
Whatever
got a
it
red
was.
card as well, haven't they?
They got a red card, yeah. Duan van der Merwe got a red card for a forearm / elbow kind of to the face. It was when you look back on it, it's harsh enough, I think. You're not allowed to do that, obviously, nowadays, but in real time, it was like, you kind of feel sorry for guys who are doing them ones.
Sympathies.
Not for you, by the way.
No.
Oh, we'll get on to this.
We'll get into that. It's just the intro.
There's a little bit of history here. Let's keep
What did you do at the weekend? Did you play Leicester? How'd you
go? We won. Tough game at home.
And he got in a fight.
Well, you wouldn't call me... Have you ever seen me in a fight? Bit of pushing and shoving.
No.
I pick my battles, Freddie Burns. So it doesn't really count as a fight. But moving on to yourself, the most capped English hooker. You won a Grand Slam, a Six Nations. It must have been a privilege to captain your country.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was good fun, hard work. We only did it for 2 years, or 2.5 years. I shared the captaincy with Faz as well when we plummeted to the worst ever Six Nations finish. But we always forget that when we have intros. It's like, Grand Slam, back-to-back Six Nations, and we forget about the third year coming fifth. Never mentioned that.
No.
But no, it was good, mate. It was good fun. It's given me something to look back on with great fondness.
And look, we'll talk more about your career and that captaincy a bit later. Before we go on, though, what was the highlight for you as a captain?
Easily that first year, so probably the vindication of that Grand Slam. We'd probably been bridesmaids to yourself and Wales for 4 or 5 years building up to that.
Yeah.
Like the sort of the teams in that tournament, France were kind of like a sleeping giant. Scotland aren't the sort of team they are now. It was literally Wales, Ireland and us under Stuart Lancaster, and we'd always come like second best. We'd always got just there and then lost in the last game or something. So like for the team, I think that group of players to obviously get that over the line finally. And I suppose when I got that captaincy, it wasn't didn't feel like it was an achievement at the time. And I compared it to like when Robbo was selected as captain. It was like this big celebration of like, this is our boy. And, they talked about like his backstory of, his grassroots club. And I don't know, like I just always felt like an outsider like that. Like I never really got to enjoy that moment. And my first press thing, I sat down, I sat next to Dan Rohn, the BBC guy. And he's got family in Northampton. And then off camera, we're chatting away and it was all really, really pleasant. First question, he goes, so eye gouging, Dylan, are you a good captain? And I was just like, so every media session I went to after that, it was like, do you trust yourself as a captain, your disciplinary record? Because to that point, like my career had been pretty checkered. So naturally, I'd made a rod for my own back. But it got like tiresome,
Like I say, does it take its toll on you? Like every time having to sort of not prove everyone wrong, but say, I'm England captain, I'm trying my best here.
That's what I did.
I'm trying to go, put my front foot.
That's what I tried to
forward,
say the whole time. And it wasn't until I suppose would Grand Slam that tournament, I could walk into the room and say, I'm not talking about the past anymore. Then I went and red carded, hit hide Shawnee here, and it all got brought back up again.
To be honest, we showed it earlier to everyone working here, and there was a cheer. I've never heard such a loud cheer.
Cheer.
People were very happy.
He's still standing.
I didn't even remember. I didn't even remember.
You don't remember last week, so
It was a cheap one. That's
easy.
From
easy.
behind.
Yeah, I mean,
Stop going about it.
jeez.
Game's gone soft.
Game's gone soft. Game's gone soft at that point.
No, but to answer your question, like it was just good when we Grand Slammed that for the team, the group of players that had come through to finally do it, and for me just to tick that off and just say I'm doing my job really well. Still cool for my head every game after that, but it's cool.
Well, we'll come back to that a bit later. So, Shawnee, did you see that Rassie Erasmus has been in the news again this week? As you can see here, there's too much microscopic stuff in the game now. We worked out that the referee needs to make between 800 and 850 decisions in one match. It's impossible. It leaves the referee open to criticism I would know, and that's not fair. Now, I don't know what you make of this. I don't know if you've seen the article, Shawnee, but he's obviously coming out to try and say that he didn't leak the video and he's not such a bad guy and the media have made him out to be this criminal. What did you make of that?
No, I'm not buying it, to be honest, because like Rassie's an incredibly smart fella, and there's a plan to why he's done this now as well. He's trying to do something here. He's trying to feel something out or fish something out 100%. Because talking to even some of the Munster lads about him, that's the way he goes about things. Like, he can't go, I didn't do that to the referees, or I didn't say this about the referees, or I didn't let that video leak, and then come out with something going, oh, I'm on the referee side here. This is barbaric what we're doing.
I know he's trying to show remorse in this article, but for me, it's too late, and I just don't really buy it. I know the whole of South Africa will be up in arms about that, but it's something where...
But there's a plan.
Yeah, there's always a plan with him.
What's the plan? What's the angle there? What's the angle?
Well, he's trying to make him out like he's not such a bad guy, and that,
he's on the referee's side now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, you got to remember where his bread's buttered. You know what I mean? Like, the people of South Africa love him because he's put his both feet in the ground and said, "I'm not moving. This is my stance." He doesn't need to please us. Doesn't need to please World Rugby. He needs to please South African. And you like, rugby's religion there. So him just saying what he thinks for the best of the team, putting himself out there, like, they love him for it.
I mean, they do.
And then I suppose if you look at that statement, referees making decisions, like, how many games have you been reffed in? And it's probably hard for you guys now because you still play, but you wish the referees were held to accountability because they get something wrong one week and you've put so much in physically and emotionally, and then on Monday morning you go into a meeting and they say, oh, the referee assistants have come back and they apologise for getting that wrong. It's like, cost us a game, cost us 5 points, cost us a semi-final push or something like that. Like, they need to be held accountable. But if he's saying, I mean, he's obviously done his homework. You don't come up with 800 to 850, like a number like that without doing your research. So
we said a few weeks ago when we were chatting about it to World Rugby, like, how, like, the game's getting too complicated now. Pull it back, make it simpler for referees. So maybe that's what he's trying to say there as well. Maybe it is like there's too many decisions to be made. But I'm telling you, there's something here at Rassie. He is working an angle of some sort. We don't know it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the coming months with him.
I mean, ultimately, it's a bit rich, him saying that, having done an hour-long video which criticises the referees. But
he's exposed it. None of us would have known that. He wouldn't have known. And the fact that he pointed out the inaccuracies or the wrong calls, it just shows how a game can be won and lost on a referee's decisions. So if anything, he's highlighted the issue. Now he's telling us how many decisions have got to make. So something will come off the back of it. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a plan.
he also talked about the prospect of coaching England. Could you ever see that happening?
Who, Rassie?
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Pitching for a job?
Yeah, he was. He said, I don't think English people would ever want me to be there now, but if my own people are going to hate me for it, then I would never do it. South Africa has my heart, but coaching England would be amazing because I think they can win. I would love to coach Ellis Genge. So nod to him. Could you see that happening? Still?
I don't know. There's so many, like, hearing what you've said, there's so many mind games. Like, what's he up to?
Yeah, well, he's up to something. But
well, you say mind games.
I don't think
Eddie was.
I genuinely don't think he'd be good for England. I think England are trying to transition into like more of an attacking style of game now at the minute.
Hang on, he's been successful.
He can be successful.
And England, if they're successful, I don't think people mind.
No, well, maybe they don't mind, but I think if they were going down the route they're going at the minute with their attacking style and with these really good young players that's coming through, he's going to go back to what he's been successful with, because most coaches stick to what they know and what they believe in as a coach and their philosophy, which is this kicking game. And the other thing about it is he doesn't have the physicality he has with South Africa when he comes to England. He has very good physical players, but just a bit different, like, again. And probably the skill set of the lads he has here is probably a little bit ahead of some of the younger guys he might have in South Africa. But I don't know. I can't see it happening, to be honest.
Moving on to the Six Nations now. Wales versus France, Friday night, Principality. Can you see the Welsh doing over the French, Shawnee?
No, I can't. I can't see anyone stopping the French.
Even that in that atmosphere on a Friday night in Wales?
I think the French boys, that team don't fear anyone at the minute. they're a young bunch of guys who are playing incredibly well, firing the ball around, able to mix it physically. Set piece is brilliant.
And Dylan, what have you made of the French so far?
No, love them. They play the perfect game, right? But the only thing I think with Wales, like you look at Wales, like they get a hiding, then they beat Scotland, they get beaten by England. Do they react? They're kind of up and down. They're an emotional team, and I think back at home, backs against the wall again, they will come out with an added sort of impetus. Can Wales rock them? I haven't seen them emotional yet. We haven't seen an emotional French team that just seems so focused and
firepower. I don't think there's the firepower for
no,
them.
but
and like Ireland,
too physical.
Ireland didn't have enough firepower for them either, even though Ireland actually played really well at times in that game. And the only ones I think that do have a bit of firepower for them, depending on the team to pick, is actually England. Physically.
I think it's a big thing is tactically as well. The French, with this sort of unstructured chaos in attack, offloading is better than anyone. They actually kick the ball more than anyone. And the stats show they played the least amount of rucks in their own half. And it does come back to the sort of All Blacks. You sort of forget that they kick the ball the most because they played this great rugby. But that's the bit. If you can stay patient against them as they go in this long kicking jauls, and Scotland were in it for a bit, and they just switched off, and DuPont went on this great run, and that's where they're so lethal, the French. And I think a big part of Wales is they'll be emotional, they're at home. If they can just keep them in the opposition half, it'll be an interesting game, because it's once they're in your half, they get momentum with their big pack, they start offloading, it's tears, but you just got to stop them getting in your half, which is not easy. Moving on to Italy-Scotland, can Galbizi inspire Italy to win?
No. No, was the answer. No. I think Scotland will be incredibly disappointed with some of their play the last day. I think there'll be a lot of harsh words said to them in terms of their D and stuff like that, and their work rate back a few times. So I can only see a Scotland win, to be fair. But they'll play some nice rugby against Italy, no doubt.
I reckon Italy, there's usually a pattern, right? Every team that plays them, it's 3 or 4 tries before half time. And then the second half, they kind of pull away and you get to 40, 50 points. That's happened with most games, but they're still staying in the game. It doesn't feel like the floodgates. The game's scrappy. So I think against Scotland, if they can make it scrappy, I think we could see one of the tighter scorelines of the tournament here.
I agree
in terms of Italy,
Yeah, no, I agree on that. I think Scotland, if they get a try early, you can see Hogg and those guys really running onto the ball well. Finn Russell having a great day and enjoying himself. But if they can just get the squeeze, take a bit of time away from Finn Russell, force him to play early, try his kicks, that not all of them come off. As you said, I think it could be a really tight game.
I still think Scotland have too much quality, and they'll be so disappointed after the last day. They'll win the game, but how close of a contest is it going to be?
Moving on to England, Ireland at Twickenham. Dylan, how impressed have you been with Ireland in this tournament?
Yeah, it's a progression of where they're at, and I think it's the sure sign of I suppose the Farrell era is starting to kick in. There's how many years he had it now? Two. Yeah, the first year was a little bit, but yeah, I think it's really positive. It's good for the tournament when you got. I said at the start, I thought France, Ireland, and England were genuine contenders. And I still believe it is that way. So now I've been really impressed. They play a quick game, and I think the difference between when they played against Wales to France was almost like a second in ruck speed, which leads to the physicality that France bring. So Ireland are very good when they can get quick ball. And talking to a few of your countrymen, I suppose not fair, but they're aware of teams with power or physicality.
Yeah.
So, and England fall into that, France fall into that, I'm sure South Africa fall into that. But if they can play quick, if teams let them play quick, man, they look organised.
Yeah.
And I suppose a criticism, under maybe Schmidt's era, you're really organised, but then when the game became loose, it was unstructured.
We didn't have one structure.
Yeah, and you look at what you can do now, it's Ireland look dangerous.
England could be without Dombrant as well. He's got COVID. Is that a big loss for them?
Yeah, I think it is. If he's not playing, I think it is. But the way he's been in, the form he's been in has been very good. He was very impressive the last day. And I just think it looks better balanced with him in the team than Simmons at the minute. And his just relationship with Marcus Smith as well has been brilliant. Little inside balls. 3-4 phases in, I should say. So he's been very good. definitely will be a loss if he's not playing.
Dylan, England, Ireland to win.
England to win purely on the fact that I know the Irish fear the physicality. They fear it.
I don't know if to fear it.
They fear it.
I don't know if to fear it. Not with the team.
Oh,
they
yeah, a
have
few
now.
of them have told me they fear it, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Shawnee was a
England,
bit fearful when you walked in the studio, to be honest. So.
no, I just if they can play to the perceived strengths of that physicality, I think that controls so much of the game, whether it be set piece, breakdown, and ultimately the breakdown controls the speed of how Ireland want to play. And the home advantage, Ireland travelling, I don't know if that affects much, but
Who are
Fingers
you
crossed,
going
no.
for?
I think Ireland in a very tight scrap. I think because of last year, I just think they've got a bit more confidence than they would have had. Last year I wouldn't have called it, but having won and won well against England, I think that's lifted them up, and I think it'll be tight. But I think overall, I think England's cohesion at the moment, it's just too many new players in their round, and given another year, I think they'll be very good.
Yeah, I agree
They
with
need
you.
time together. That's what I say. And Ireland are a bit more settled.
Yeah.
Anyways, with the return of the Six Nations, also means the return of the match pint Guinness pint predictions. So, Shawnee, Wales versus France, what do you reckon?
I am going France plus 15.
France plus 12 for me. What about yourself, Dylan?
17. I'm going higher.
Nice.
Shawnee, Italy versus Scotland.
Scotland, I'm going to say plus 22,
Ooh.
which is high.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm
glad you know
I'm
that.
backing Scotland to come out and put in a performance.
I'm going to go Scotland by 20.
You're copying me.
15.
Copy.
I'm going lower.
15.
15.
I would have
yeah.
thought 15, but it's going to be,
Come on,
it's gonna be a
Italy.
nice day in.
Come on, I want
Rome.
them for the good of the tournament.
But you say Italy by 15.
Because everyone's saying get rid of Italy. I'm saying Italy staying. Come on, let's.
So you think you're going to win by 15?
No.
Oh.
They're going to be competitive, and Scotland are going to get a couple of lucky tries.
Okay, Shawnee, England, Ireland.
Ireland by 10.
Ireland by 3.
England by 8. Just clear. 2 scores.
Well, some weekend anyways. So Dylan, let's get back to your career and how it started. You're born, raised in New Zealand.
Yes.
And a few rumours going around that you may have practiced your rugby tackling on some sheep. Is this true? Let's get this out of the way
It's
early.
rite of passage as a young Kiwi kid.
Sheep
if you got
pigs.
sheep.
Shawnee, what did you tackle when you were younger?
Yeah, sheep as well.
Yeah?
I mean, my technique wasn't very good.
Why, were you
But-
going too high?
No, just
Neck roll?
No, it was more like when you got them in
Swinging
for
arms.
like docking or like
You've got to let it go, Sean.
or give them a thingy. Dad used to just chuck us on the back and you just hang on for dear life and ride them out.
And then you came over to the UK when you were 16.
Yeah.
Rugby, were you very good at rugby when you were younger? Or was it more of a late developer?
No, like I loved the game. Like growing up, I loved it. Like I loved the rugby ball. I took rugby ball with me everywhere. Just immersed myself in it. But the reality was I wasn't actually that good, and that probably stayed with me my whole career. Very self-deprecating, I know, but I'm a realist. Wasn't good enough really there to cut it. I was way down. Wasn't even on the radar really. So I just saw an opportunity to find my own way, and I found my own way. Came over here. Didn't really embark on professional rugby. I just wanted to come abroad and play rugby, and join my local club. I think just coaching and an opportunity that I got here was probably greater because I was a Kiwi in the south of England. I think I may have stood out because I was different, you know. So I got noticed. I got opportunity. I got better coaching. I was put in better environments, and then my career, I suppose, went. Well, I didn't go from strength to strength, did it? It went like that, but yeah, it was good fun.
You talked about the sort of highs and lows, and we'll get into that. You know, some huge highs. You know, winning the Premiership, captaining England, Grand Slam. You know, your time at Northampton, a lot of success. Like some of those low moments. How did you learn to sort of deal with them? To come back stronger? To, you know, some lengthy breaks, some time off. You know, was it about clearing your head? How did you deal with some of the setbacks?
I mean, dealt with them all the same way, really. Like, what's the other option? Like, what's the other option? What do you do? Just crawl into a hole and go away? Like,
The Lions tour.
yeah, like,
That was a big
No, but you got to remember, right?
I
talk
remember
about the
actually
Lions.
going into that day and your gear was.
Oh,
No, you had got.
I'd been.
You were there with that day
Yeah.
with us. Yeah.
Then I did the squad photo with the Lions. They photoshopped my face off and put Rory Best on. I said it's the best rig Rory Best ever had. I made his career basically. He went on. Now he's like Lord of Belfast or something, isn't he? You got to remember for me, like Lions. This sounds. I'll try and be as respectful as possible. I grew up in New Zealand. I didn't have an idea who the Lions were. And then I came here, because they tour there every 12 years, you know what I mean? So I come over here, playing for the Lions wasn't like steeped in, it wasn't in my blood. It wasn't something I grew up watching. It wasn't something I understood. Whilst I was involved with it, being selected, like, it was a huge moment to be selected for that and a huge honour that came with it. And, you know, you get your tyres pumped up, you made the tour. It's cool. And financial reasons, it's also good. But like when I missed out on that, I wasn't bothered about missing out on it. Obviously, looking back now, it would have been great crack to go on it because it was a series you win and won as well. And I would have made all these special friends from different countries and whatnot. But like at the time, I was more upset about what had happened with Northampton. So it wasn't like thinking about me. I was more thinking about what happened with the team, the town, the club, all that sort of stuff. So that to me, you know, Lions don't really bother me.
Didn't bother you.
But yeah, like you're asking like the downs, like all of it. Every time something went wrong, I reckon there was something going on in my life that wasn't quite right. So it's not like at the moment in the game I decided just to do something crazy. It was all like built up. Something off the field was happening. Like the incident with you, for example, like I don't justify what I did, but there was a process to why that happened. So you guys were like pumping us at home, right? At Northampton, Franklin's Gardens, our home, really proud team. And I'm the captain of the club and I'm on the bench because I've been away on international duty. I'm sitting there watching this happen and we're being told that we're soft. We're not going in hard enough. We're then meant to do whatever they do. So I'm building this thing in my head. Like when I get on, I need to go make a physical statement. I need to go do something big. I need to do something to lift the team. Sean O'Brien, the talisman, the Leinster talisman gets the ball. And like, there's my chance. There's my opportunity. Big physical impact. And I think I get this thing in my head and I basically take your head off with a swinging arm. But the intent in what I'm trying to do, in my mind, is right. You know what I mean?
That's what we actually, do you know, it's funny you say that because it might have something to do with your environment at the time too, because you had Dorian West, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Malander. And he was like saying, get this fella during the week of that one as well. Like go after these guys. Like physically. Now I'm not saying
that happens every week. Yeah, that happens every week.
You know, maybe to certain lads that's too much. Like it goes overboard. And then
we call it like
you build it up and then it's something your intent is right, but your execution of it is completely wrong.
Oh man, like that you're bang on. Like so you would have been one of those players, like you always target a number 8 or a big ball carrier to stop momentum, you know what I mean? So as a captain, you sat in those meetings listening, but I'm not starting the game, you know? So then I get my chance. I'm like, I can do that, and it goes incredibly wrong. The same thing happened. We played. This isn't a ban or anything, but the year we won the Premiership final, Jamie Gibson played for Leicester, and he killed every ball. He was on every ball. So all week we're starting on Monday morning. We're going to target Jamie Gibson. Tuesday training. Someone put that bib on. And a blonde wig, you know, like with tape on, Jamie Gibson. All week. I see him in a game go over our ball. I run from about 10 metres and I kind of, you know, clear out. Chicken wing, just because that's the only way. And I'm thinking, right, move him. Because on Monday morning, I'm the one that's been banging the drum about this. I need to show that I've shifted him. And I'll fracture my scap. I'm out for like 8 weeks building up to the Premiership final, 6 weeks. I declared myself fit to play in the Premiership final. Physios and the coaches weren't going to let me play. I had to plead them to declare myself fit so I could play. But I fractured my scap. So I didn't get banned in that. But that's how it works the other way as well, you know? So going back to the root of your question, the downs, yeah. Like once you've done it once, twice, 3 times, it just became a bit tiring. Like, I don't know if you've been to a disciplinary, but it's quite, you get quite anxious because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think it's like going to the headmaster's office. Like when you leave there, you actually feel quite good. I feel quite uplifted because it's the unknown basically. So building up to it, you don't know what's going to happen. So I used to feel sick. You got to put on your suit, go down. You got the whole narrative of like the media kind of calling you out. Your England career's over. You should, you know, the trolling, like before Be Kind was a thing. I remember people like messaging things about my kids, like And like, you can't say, oh, look what people are saying. Be kind wasn't a thing. So you're getting hammered. But as soon as you go and have that thing, they go, you got 8 weeks. You walk out and you go, cool. Okay, positive is, I'm not going to play. I can get my skin folds down. I can work on my strength. I can, give myself to the team off the field. I can do that. So I quite like that. And we play a lot of rugby. It wasn't like at Leinster where you got managed.
Yeah.
Northampton got their pound of flesh. Even with all my bands, I still played a lot of rugby for them. And so I use those. I always said it would give me longevity in my career, but it didn't. I still retired early.
I guess from that, above all, it comes out to me is how much Northampton meant to you. You talk about in that phone, just give us how much has the town, the club, the supporters, how much have they given you? What does it mean for you, that place?
I mean, it's not the most glamorous place in the world, but you remember, I left home at 16 without my family, found myself in Northampton, created a career for myself, and I immersed myself in the club. I'm on first name basis with the cleaners at the club, and the people, the Jamaican ladies that own the laundromat around the corner. I used to sit with them, and they'd bring me jerk chicken to take home with me. I used to ride a bike on game day. Sometimes I'd ride a bike. I remember playing Newcastle away one night, got back and it was cold and I had to ride my bike home. That was I started driving after that. But get back at 3 a.m, have to ride your bike home. Yeah. But and when you're there I played for 15, 16 years, you actually get to know the Norses or the fans, you know what I mean? And you see them and you end up living next to people who are Saints fans. So it just meant a lot. And I suppose that Premiership final was probably the highlight of my career because we had lost, I think, to Sarries 4 years building up to that in the semis. So we got relegated, did the championship, and it was almost like a 6-year plan to that final. So it wasn't just lifting that trophy and we won that season. It was 7, 8 years with relegation, building as a team to that point. So when you talk about all the downs, it was more like losing the home semi-final to Sarries, losing to Leinster Heineken Cup 2011. Yeah. So we'd experienced a load as a team. So to finally get there in the 100th minute against probably our modern rivals was, it was like redemption. And the year before I'd been red carded, and I said after that red card in that final, I'm going to give everything. And I reckon, when people say, oh, captaincy, I dine out on that. People say, this isn't my words, but I was a good captain, you know what I mean? I was a captain in many years as well. But I reckon my best year of captaincy was that 2014. Just because of what happened the year before the red card, I literally give everything to the club, everything. And then when you got kids and stuff like that, you can't give everything to the club. You can't be one of the boys, you can't be as social. So 2014 was my best year of being involved with the team, I reckon.
And talking about being captain, that 2015 year, what happened with the World Cup.
Yeah.
You're not selected, suspension. Eddie then makes you captain of a new England. How did that happen? Did he ring you up? Did he meet you for dinner? Did he? How did you find out?
Took me for breakfast. And I kind of...
Did you pay?
No, he didn't. It was at Penny Hill. I don't think he pays for anything, Eddie.
Yeah.
He's got one of those gold RFU credit cards. And he used it, to be fair. He's good. He's good with it. I've been in many environments where the coach and the team manager don't spend. But Eddie, for the boys, you just do anything. No, I think, again, silver lining. So 2015, we win the league. We play you guys in the semi-final. We score a try. I celebrate in Jamie George's face. It's called a headbutt. I get banned. Don't go to the World Cup. So I sit at home watching, and again, you build that thing up. 4 years we spend together building towards the home World Cup in England. We're going to win it. We're going to be legends. Then you miss out on it. But then I had my daughter in that time. So rugby didn't really care. Had my daughter. And I think then Eddie rings me up a year later and I'm thinking, is he asking me about the environment? Is he going to kind of send me on my way? Thanks. Because I played 70 odd games for England at that point. I didn't know what he wanted. The captaincy was never on my radar. He sits me down and asks if I want to do it. And I suppose it's kind of silver linings of not having fingerprints on that Rugby World Cup where you were involved with, right? So because I hadn't been a part of it, I think he wanted someone detached from that. It's funny how ups and downs, they all kind of work in their own special way.
Did you ever think of saying no?
No, I think from like under 15s to when Northampton asked me to do it, you always think like, why? Is that classic like imposter syndrome? And I found it harder at Northampton, maybe at 22 years old, like taking the captaincy of Bruce Rihanna, who when I was 10 years old, he signed my ball. You know what I mean? Like that was hard because you don't know what you're doing. But by the time I'd captained the club, so I kind of thought maybe that's why he wants me to do it. I thought, it, you know, why not? Yeah,
I think as well, like you put down on yourself as a captain. I was unbelievably impressed. I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. I was unbelievably impressed with you as a leader. Having been in camp with you for 4 years previously and seeing you as guy like had a laugh, a joke, you know, you actually
completely changed overnight.
Yeah, I mean that's quite interesting to me because I saw you someone who would have the players' best interest at heart and would actually go not back at Eddie necessarily, but say, look, the players need this day off or the players need this, and be strong enough to go back at him, but also, you know, really try to get the rest of the group on board. So like Owen or Robbo or, you know, whoever was playing, everyone to buy into that. And
yeah, but that was easy, right? That was easy because you say push back. Eddie is all for the players. So I just think the environment that was created before was very much school teacher and student. It was like, this is what we're doing. This is what you're going to say at media time. Whereas Eddie sat down and goes, it's your team. Like, we're going to have some non-negotiables on the field until you guys are good enough to come up with your own stuff and lead that. But he goes, it's your team. Do what you want with it. So when you say push back, there's little things like the guys for years, post-match functions, days off. It was all just so rigid and everyone else was thought about first instead of the product or the team or the talent, you know what I mean? Whereas we just pushed back and said, we want this, can we do that? These timings, can we do that? Can we wear this? You know, like, and all of a sudden it was like big wins for the boys because they come from such a strict sort of regime. Yeah. The boys were like, the buy-in was brilliant, wasn't it? And that wasn't me doing a good job. It was just that Eddie was so forthcoming with us driving our own environment, because when a group of people drive their own environment, like a round table, it's more empowering, and everyone feels like they're in instead of being told what to do the whole time. So, I mean, it was the fact that like we came from a teetotal sort of culture to Eddie. Like he literally put beer on the table throughout the week.
It's funny you say that. It's like the Irish camp at the minute. That's the way it is with Faz.
It's the power of choice, right? Yeah. You give people the choice and they make the right decisions.
It's an enjoyable place to be then when you go in there. It's not like you're thinking, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that, or you know what I mean? You're not.
You can be yourself, right? You can be yourself.
I was about to say, you say it was hard. Did you relish the role, or was it too many parts which were just difficult, or because it was just so physically demanding, emotionally?
Everything. Like, again, you know, someone. Like, you can never be tired, you can never be cold, because, you know, all the boys look to you. So if you're hungry, everyone else is hungry, you know what I mean? So you can never walk in. I mean, you could raise the eyebrows and that sort of thing, but in terms of like that energy, I had to manage it. I was drained a lot of the time, but like, again, it's like climbing a mountain, right? Like loads of people get to base camp, but not many people summit the mountain, you know what I mean? And as a team, we sat at the top of the mountain for a good couple of years there. So like, it just taught me, for 70 odd games playing for England, I'd done absolutely all, because I'd been on a jolly, really. I was playing my rugby, trained hard, played hard, but enjoyed. I had no focus. Eddie gave me focus. It's what I needed at the time.
I mean, I thought when Eddie first came in, he got us to all think about rugby more and more, and to understand, you know, like those meetings we used to have with the spine of the team. Somehow I was in there, even though I was a water boy most of the time, but we were in there talking about scenarios. You know, what happens if so-and-so gets yellow carded? What happens in this situation? And we'd have to go into little groups and talk about how we would manage the clock, what would we do in this situation, what would we do here, what would we do in the line-out, what would we do kicking game. And I remember thinking, you know, for me, it got us to really think about rugby to another level, so we could think for ourselves on the field and adapt, and that was a huge part of it, and it was a great lesson for me personally, I think for a lot of the boys.
But it wasn't like thinking about rugby to another level. Like, that should be, I wish I was 21 getting that. That should just be a starting point, and I think that's the point. It was a far more collaborative process. You know, everyone had an opinion. So what do you reckon about this? What do you reckon about that? Everyone's buying in. So when something happened on the field, it was like, we've all had an input and we actually signed off on this this answer. And I felt at 29, 30 years old, exactly like you, I felt like I'd been enlightened. Like this, it's like a psychologist and a rugby guru rolled into one. Yeah. It's got you thinking about the game completely different. Have you come across a coach that has made you think differently?
Probably Stewart for me. Just thinking about the unstructured part of the game and how we were going to, right, when we get the ball back, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Just evolved my game to another little different kind of level, even though I was suffering my hip at that stage as well. So I would have loved to have played without injury or without that pain for those 2 seasons under Stewart. I would have really enjoyed it, I think.
Brilliant. Well, it's now time for Good Week, Bad Week. And this week's Good Week goes to Bradford Batten, who posted this photo of his son, Liam, on social media this week. In this first photo, you can see his son, who's just 6 years old. He coached him all the way from 4th grade up until high school graduation. They're now competing for the same starting spot at the Clark County Chiefs in Washington State, USA. How good, eh?
Great mullet.
I mean, I'm about to say that mullet is a bit like you, 2006?
I never had that power at the back. That's some good length.
I like it though. It sort of comes across as though he's really happy for his son. He's coached him up, and now he's quite bitter that he's taken his spot. It's like, yeah, I'm really happy, but why'd you take my spot? Why don't you play for another team?
Give him a big pat on the back. It's lovely to see.
It's great to see. Great to see.
Who's this week's bad week?
This week's bad week, Goody, is Leo Burdu of Claremont against Toulouse with an absolute howler of a pickup, as you can see here now in a sec. So
I mean,
over the
it's
line.
just French rugby summed up, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a lovely field as well. You could just slide with that. You could hack it out the back. It's like he just doesn't want to go down there. Is that a forward? Is that like one of like pet hate for you? If you see like a fullback, someone just not sliding back to get on that.
Get down and get back up quickly.
Oh, to be fair, there's one training drill I used to hate. It was that one. The coach would roll the ball out. In a game, it's cool. Dive on it. But like in a training, you don't want to have to go dive on that and get up. Like,
and the worst feeling of all time is when they've scored and then you're getting up.
Yeah,
that's the
worst they can.
I mean, that's classic French, isn't it? And who's going in the sin bin this week, Shawnee?
Sin bin this week goes to Rhino Smith of Benetton as he takes out Leinster's Dr. John Ryan. Thankfully, John Ryan is okay after.
Tough lad?
John Ryan is an absolute legend, by the way. What a great person to have there. He is Leinster's #1 supporter as well, would you believe? But thankfully he was okay after it, and he lives to tell the tale.
It's good to see, obviously, Rhino went over there and tried to check he was all right as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got time for. Thanks to Dylan for coming on, and for Shawnee, as always. It's great to see you. This has been the House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe.